Hello, this is Omar Brownson. How are you today? We have Oakley. Yes, hi Oakley.
Hi, I had technical difficulties. Hi, Omar.
How are you today?
I'm fantastic.
And where are you joining us from? You have a new background.
I have a brand new background. This is my new box. I'm in Maine and had an incredible trip from Denver to Maine to see family. We thought we'd jump at the opportunity this summer, not knowing where we'll all be in the fall. And I am in a sound booth in a co-working space, which is a first for me, and it's pretty fun actually.
Well, you sound great.
Oh, thank you.
I can definitely appreciate the technical challenges. We had our audio engineer, Brian, remind me that the reminder to send out the gthx Zoom link didn't go out. And so thank you all for either remembering or getting our very last minute email. We want to hear from you a little bit more today. And so we really invite you to share in the chat. We'd love to hear just how you're feeling, getting sort of towards the end of July. You know, this has been a long year, and, you know, these moments each week are really an opportunity for us to just pause. And, you know, and that's what I love about gratitude, is just this pause and reminder to check in and to really notice what is good. So please let us know in the chat how you're feeling. We want to hear from you. Also, if you haven't already downloaded our gratitude app, gthx, you can find it in both the Apple and the Android stores. And please, again, if you haven't already, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Last week, Oakley and I covered the topic of return and reclaim. It was so powerful to really look at these learned behaviors that we inherit. And it was particularly acute because my mom joined last week's Zoomcast, and talking about learned behaviors and inherited behaviors, and then having my mom on the Zoomcast, I felt like the comedian who was caught telling dirty jokes in the studio because, you know, at the club, his parents were there. And so the practice is real. I ended up talking to my mom afterwards, and she was like, yeah, this was really good. And so I was like, okay, the joke worked. And it was positive. So thank you, Oakley, for guiding us. And this is, I can't believe it, the third of 3 practices on unlearning. It's flown by so quickly.
So fast.
And what would you say has been some of the highlights for you as we just look back on these 3 sessions and, you know, lead up to this final one?
Are you asking me? I just want to hear from everyone. I'm so excited that everybody's here. Gosh, some highlights for me. I honestly think these are tools that I've used in the context of psychotherapy, which is ongoing meetings and a commitment over a long period of time. So to distill these teachings and offer them in a 45-minute session, I have to say, like, is an overarching highlight for me to see that it's made a difference and that it's had impact, hearing from, you know, our callers and our participants here and all of that. So I just have been really, really moved to continue to think outside of the box. And, you know, continue to expand different tiers and levels of support, honestly, because I just believe in all of us as kind of these ever evolving beings. And I've been given these tools, so why would I keep them to myself, and why would I keep them in a little office, you know? So this has just been really fun, and workshops and all that kind of stuff, but this has been unique. I really had fun.
I like that idea of like how we expand the box. And that was a little bit about what you and I talked about after last week's session, where people really just opened up and just how powerful that is. And that's really the space that we want to create, which is, what is that space where we can have these breakthroughs and where it's happening together, right? And it's by us pushing each other, we're able to unsee our limits, right? If this is the Unlearning series, us unseeing our limits, really, that's where we push the boundaries, because we don't actually put those boundaries, we don't put those boxes around ourselves.
And I'd love to add too there, Omar. I do recognize too that I offer these tools in the context of one-on-one or kind of exclusive workshops, right? And so this setting of just all being together, because the power of workshops and long weekend retreats and seminars, that kind of thing, I get to watch that energy build when we all come together. So all of us being together in these moments on Thursdays is so powerful for me, and just to witness it.
I mean, one of the things that we talked about earlier this week was just, we are asking people to jump on this raft with us.
Yeah.
They're sort of leaving the shore of, in some ways, comfort. And just what is helpful as we think about that idea of leaving our comfort zones, jumping into this place where, yes, we want breakthrough. And, and I think most people don't have a hard time imagining amazing possibility. What most people, I think, have is a hard time of letting go of what they know. And so what does that sort of transition look like? And how are these practices helping us do that?
Absolutely. I think that when we talked about kind of this alternative reality that we can move ourselves into, we also talked about the limbo space of leaving that familiar world and taking the risk to set out alone just for that moment, but where there is a moment between a known reality and an unknown reality where we hover for a minute and we're tested. We're tested on our own bravery and our own commitment to our evolution, because there's that moment of singularity where it's like, I am floating and I am neither connected to my familiar world and I'm not quite grounded in the new. And that is kind of that moment, right, where we take a breath and we can get afraid. But the more and more we practice kind of, transitioning, the more and more we get familiar with that limbo space, and we're like, oh no, this is not something to be feared. This is a sign that I'm expanding my capacity, that I'm creating a new reality that is more aligned with my personal expression.
I'd love to hear from folks as we're starting this conversation. And, if you've joined us for one or all three of these unlearning sessions, what have been some of the emotions that have come up for you? And, go ahead and please feel free to share that in the chat. Because I think that's, I remember right after college, my first job was teaching in AmeriCorps. And the beautiful thing about it was that we got training every week. And I remember this trainer came in and she said, the only way that we're ever going to be held accountable for our dreams is by sharing them. And I think that's, to me, is this sort of the invitation, to share in the chat and in these conversations, is this is the way that we're held accountable. And I think, to me, gratitude is how we hold ourselves accountable to ourselves and to our relationships. Just that giving thanks, it just makes it visible all of a sudden, this idea of what it means to pause and to notice good in a very, real and tangible way. So please, I know we're asking folks to sometimes get outside the comfort zones, but this is really the space that Oakley and I are trying to create, and we appreciate you being part of it. So
I see Trisha Mack just said truth after we kind of dropped that alignment bomb. Are you there, Trisha? Can you just comment on what resonated for you?
I think she's on mute.
I am on.
Oh, there you
I am on. I didn't know if you wanted me to comment verbally or through
Please.
the chat.
Yeah. I want to hear your voice.
Okay, yes, I've been following gthx now for, I'm not quite sure. At the moment, I've been having difficulty with my phone. and having to repair, set that aside. I was able to zoom into the class, and I have most everything you say, Oakley, is resonates. And Omar is so incredible with his thoughts and reaching out, and the every day the just thankful today for me. My thanks today is my husband received a gift of some socks, and it just touched my heart. That we people are struggling, and this is a big shift in our reality in life and space and time, and meditation has helped, and shifting reality and shifting our consciousness, and gthx has really been very helpful. Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing that. It's the small, socks, right? Like that we can just, these simple but important comforts that we have and are so important. Oakley, you were going to say something.
I was just thinking too, the way that gratitude affects me, and Trisha, I just hear you so much, is it's these micro moments, right, that become so meaningful, that help us create a lens to the world that has us see the big wins too, because if we live in this consciousness where it's like, well, it's just not good enough and things are really crappy, and I'm just going to suffer until something big happens, until I make the big paycheck, or until XYZ, whatever. We just set ourselves up, because then when that happens, guess what? We're in the mindset that it's not good enough. So it's all about mindset. It has nothing to do with the external world, for the most part, right?
Yes, true. Very much so, because due to the fact that, we can live on very little: shelter, food, and clothing.
Right.
And all the other things can be very external: need, want. Yeah, coming to the realization of needs versus wants, and having to, filter down to just the minimum of things and minimum of necessities to make do in these difficult times. And expanding consciousness is a big part of that, because it makes you, it truly helps me to feel that I need less. Or want less.
Want, right. Yeah, we are talking on the scale of sort of Maslow's hierarchy of needs here. As long as we have food, shelter, water to a certain degree, then we can start contemplating the more spiritual aspects, right? But assuming that we're all there right now, taken care of on even a minimal level that works for us, here we are able to take time to actually think about our mindset and where our hearts are and our minds are focused,
Yes.
Thank you so much, Trisha, for sharing, and thank you for those that are also sharing in the chat, Laura, and talking about the acknowledge, accept, welcome practice. I love that one. Again, that idea of being hosts, and what does it mean to acknowledge and accept and welcome someone into the home. And your home is your mind. And I think part of what Oakley and I are trying to create in this space is this idea that we can rely on each other, but if we rely so much so that we don't express who we are, then we're actually limiting that. And I've been reading this book called Immunity to Change, is that we have to move from being a reliant mind to a self-authoring mind. And a self-authoring mind means we can become a little bit more self-reliant. But even beyond a self-reliant mind is a self-transforming mind. And that means that we can actually co-create. And that's what's so important for Oakley and I, to not just have this as a podcast, but to do this as a Zoomcast, so that it's happening as a co-creation with each of you. And so as you're in your everyday practices. And I love, Laura, that you have a client who talks about feeling his feelings. That was my 2019. 2019, the word was feelings. I was like, oh my God, so many feelings. No wonder why my family never talked about them. I was like, there's so many of them. And to then all of a sudden learn that we can have the feelings without becoming our feelings, I was like, that's so amazing. And for me, you know, gratitude was this sort of soft entry point into it. I was like, okay, let's start with the positive emotions. Because if I can just begin to even notice the positive emotions, then I can sort of say, okay, there it is again. That's the positive emotion. And then all of a sudden, the negative emotions weren't so loud anymore. They just sort of, they're like, oh, I was able to transition from like, oh, there's a positive emotion to, oh, there's a negative emotion. And really then became this sort of distinction between who I am, who is this host that can acknowledge, accept, and welcome, and who are all these emotions that are guests in my home, and begin to greet them a little bit more just gently. This wasn't a rave party. You know, this is a very nice, calm dinner party that we're going to have. So this week, Oakley, you're going to talk to us about end and ignite. I love that. What does that mean?
It's so simple. So I love what you're saying, you know, being able to notice the positive and then also being able to notice the negative. But there are those negative, right? I call them fear-based feelings because they're more contracted versus feelings that are more expanded, that can really, you know, grab us by the ankle and kind of like drag on, cling on to us through our day, you know? And I think that we all know what that is for us if we take a moment and just acknowledge, like, what is my go-to fallback fear-based emotion? And I will say negative just for the sake of conversation, but we're not judging it as negative. So it can be criticism, it can be anxiety, it can be anything fear-based, worry, anger, whatever it is. And last week we talked about the inheritance of feelings and the inheritance of emotions and thought patterns, and we learned how to give back and then take back what's ours, right? And today we're actually working in our own sphere of creation. So today we're learning how to end our relationship with our own created thought forms. Okay? So these aren't the ones that are inherited. These are the ones that we have fed over time, that have become like really good buddies. We're like, hey, are you there, Blame? All right, let's go out, you know? And blame, maybe we learned it from a parent, or maybe, you know, we just picked it up to keep ourselves safe, but it's something that we perpetuate, right? And so side note, if you're doing the give back, take back, or the return, reclaim work from last week, and you notice that you keep returning something that just doesn't quite leave you, then use this practice, because it's self-perpetuated, it's self-created. Okay, so that's one little distinction about the two practices. All right. Yeah, go ahead.
Before you jump in, I wanted to also ask about last week's practice about the return and reclaim. And my sort of initial reaction was, where can we insert the positive in it? So even before, can we acknowledge in some ways a positive behavior in something that we've inherited before sort of acknowledging whatever that difficult or challenging one? And is there a reason why not to do that?
Oh, I love that you brought that up. That's actually really common question from my clients who are like, but I really love my mom. I don't really want to do this. And I'm like, okay, got it. So in a relationship, there is a thread of love, and then there's the relationship. And it's really important to know that the love is always there. Even if you fought and had a tumultuous relationship, there is a thread of love that just lives. It can be beyond sensation. It can be beyond our mind, right? So it's important to know that the love, the respect that's there, all the beautiful qualities, the appreciation, the gratitude that's there for the person that we're working with is kind of assumed before we do this, right? Like I always invite my clients, I say, you know what, I really do. I believe you, and I know in the bottom of my heart when you talk about it, how much you love your mom and your dad. And I'm going to take that and we're going to put it right here. And that is not going to be touched. That love is not going to be touched. And the appreciation, the respect, all of that. What we are going to work on is over here, cleaning out the closet so that you can actually express your love more freely and not get tripped up. Does that help answer that?
Yeah, because I think part of it, and I know this also sometimes more in work environments when you give feedback to an employee, or you put in a sandwich where you say
sandwich.
Something positive. This is what you can work on, and then you end on the positive, right? And that's wrap the sort of experience. And so I think it was definitely felt stark to just be like, all right, this is the base. I want to like unlearn, and I think that sensitivity as we go about it. And again, this is why I love gratitude. It just seeing the positive helps then address some of the more challenging or sticky emotions that we might have.
And Omar, I would add that on a neurological level, one of the reasons that this practice works is because we are activating our nervous system with the sensation triggered by the feeling. And so when we can feel it in our body and then work with it, like return it and reclaim our light, reclaim our love, whatever it is, reclaim our joy, there is actually a shift in the neural patterning because of that activation in the nervous system. So if we don't go there and we're kind of like, Mom, I love you, and I give you back your judgment, it's not quite activated. And so the neural patterning doesn't repattern as easily.
Oh, that's super helpful. That's great context. Thank you.
Yep.
All right, end and ignite.
End and ignite. Okay. So it's a mouthful. End and ignite. So end and ignite is all about choosing the energy that you wish to end your relationship with because it no longer serves you as it stands. Okay, so let's make this distinction. There is healthy anger, right? That kind of anger, it arises, it helps us kind of move through something. It can motivate us if we're depressed, right? If someone's depressed and they're like, I'm just so sick of this, that can be really motivating and helpful, right? But that anger will dissipate and people will get back on a track. If we have anger, right? I'm just using this as an example. If we have the energy of anger, that is kind of always the negative Nancy vibe. I'm sorry if anyone's named Nancy, I'll cancel that. If it's always that negative vibe where it's just grumbly and just complaining or putting people down for no reason or just like always angry in traffic, that's a different kind of anger, right? That's that kind of like brewing, stewing, always with me, not super helpful, right? That is not getting you out of a situation or keeping you safe by, spurring a fight to protect somebody or whatever, right? That's just kind of the stuff that leads to a life that can be pretty hard, right? Not really healthy relationships, mentally, emotionally, physically, we could get sick, things like that. So we're looking at those patternings that have just become really familiar and followed us around. Okay, so for example, when I started really studying this stuff about 20 years ago and getting really, really deep into it, and doing my work, I think I used this before, but my family system was one of very extroverted, and blame was the first place that people went before they turned it on themselves. Now, some family systems are about shame. And they'll turn it on themselves before they'll blame others. Oh, I was wrong. I'm so sorry. When it was like not your fault at all, like that. My family was the opposite, right? Like, oh, you really messed up. Like, I can't believe you did that, whatever. And that was a pattern in my psyche. So it was kind of something that just would go on. I'd be like, yeah, well, if the weather was better, we could, I mean, anything was like, it's, I'll take responsibility, but like, you don't really know what you're doing, like that kind of vibe. So also, that causes some serious issues, right? So I gave my blame back to my mom, gave it back to my dad, but there was still this pattern of just being used to keeping myself safe with that quality, right? And not having to feel disappointment, not having to feel hurt, not having to feel sadness. And this end and ignite is perfect for this. So what it looks like is I get in touch with the energy and I see it in front of me. And everyone on this call and whoever listens to this after, you can see it in whatever color or shape you wish. You don't have to get too crazy. Just keep it simple, right? So I'm putting blame out in front of me. It's a ball, it's hazy gray, and that's the energy I'm working with. And then I thank it. So first I see the energy, the quality of feeling I want to start to end my relationship. And number one, I lead with gratitude. Why? Because gratitude is one of the only qualities that actually truly completes a relationship. Okay, so I'm going to say that again. Gratitude is one of the only qualities that has all the threads, all the strands, all the hooks, all the ties, all the payoffs complete. Okay, so we offer our gratitude, and I would say like this: Blame, thank you for serving me. You really kept me safe in a time where I felt too vulnerable and scared to acknowledge the deep hurt I was feeling. You kept me safe from having to feel deep grief sometimes when I wasn't ready to. And I thank you. Okay, so we get really real about that. And usually it's about protection if you get lost. So just look how the quality protected you, and other things may come up for you, but that's just a little hint. Doesn't always have to be like that. So after I thank this blame energy, I say, blame, today I end my relationship with you and I send you back to your source. So wherever I pulled it from, however I created, I send it back. I end my relationship with you today and I send you back to your source. And then I take a breath. And I see it go, because all energy can be commanded, right? We get to be the drivers of the seat here. If it doesn't go, there's a payoff. That's a different situation. And we don't need to go there right now. We can give teaching on that another time, right? Usually 99% of the time it goes, unless you're just like, you know what? I'm not ready to let go of this. I'm just too scared. I just don't want to. And that's fine. That is totally fine. Okay. So in this instant though, 99% of the time it goes because we're ready. So it goes, and then I get to activate something in the space, right? I get to ignite it. So I choose to ignite in this space patience and love. And then I take another deep breath in and I exhale. The nervous system starts to reorganize. And then I commit, right? Now I'm making my commitment. As I move through my day, I'm committed to patience and love. I'm committed to patience and love. Are my thoughts and my feelings aligned with patience and love? Or are they aligned with the old pattern of blame? And now I take responsibility. So we shine awareness onto this pattern. We reconfigure it, give ourselves the best possible chance we have to succeed. And then we stay responsible and vigilant as we create the new pattern, because every time we ignite something, we really want to be responsible for watering it, for caring for it, right? It's this beautiful little seed in our new garden. Any questions before we go out? I got distracted. Sorry. I said clearly cleaning out my energy closet to Trisha. I was like, I love it. Any questions in the chat? Omar, do you have any clarifying questions?
No, I think this is just beautiful as we continue to unpack these layers on top of each other. And you just realize how layered this thing is. It's not just sort of this one sort of piece, but it's sort of more of an onion. You sort of peel back by bit.
Yeah. And I will tell you guys, after doing this piece of work that I have done around different energies in my life, there is an absolute marked difference in my personality. And it happened over time, months, years. But there are qualities that just don't occur to me to go back to. They don't occur. They're just not in the forefront. They're not driving the ship. And so I want you to know that I use all three of these things that we've taught in these last 3 weeks all the time. And it's how I continue to weed out and replenish my consciousness, which is my garden, the seeds that I've chosen to plant, the things I've chosen to take out, the beds I've chosen to rearrange, all metaphorically speaking, right? So this is how we really take really beautiful and powerful accountability to how we are in the world and how we are in our relationships and with ourselves. Because you think that I just walk around blaming others in the past. There was this silent sort of like, I wasn't that nice to myself either, right? I had huge expectations of myself, huge. I don't know who could have met them, right? So debilitating. So I ended my relationship with the unhealthy form of expectation that I had created for myself. And then I created like really reasonable, beautiful expectations that like kept me accountable and kept me moving through my life, right? So just know that when you end something, we're really focused on the distorted version of it. And I don't want you to think like, well, I just have to get rid of 75% of this energetic pie, but I'll keep the other. No, throw it all out, get rid, let it all go, send it all back, reignite, and then allow whatever is healthy to reemerge. And it will, because you're in alignment.
I love that sort of idea of letting the whole thing go. I remember when I first got introduced to the concept of mindfulness, and you're focused on just noticing change, and the practice of noticing change and sort of constantly being aware sounded really exhausting to me. I was like constantly noticing, constantly being aware. And I think it was sort of this idea of using willpower. And now I've sort of come to this place where if I can notice what is changing around me, it's like a tide coming in. And then I can notice what is changing within myself, and the tide goes out.
Mm.
And so then all of a sudden, it's regenerative, not forcing it, and then it's just sort of allowing the full experience to unfold. So instead of controlling the emotion of how am I going to react to this, right, which is what happens oftentimes in any environment, is like, should I protect myself? How should I react, right? So you're in this sort of thinking state. And so then it's really hard to be present, because you're sort of trying to sort of figure out how to be present by controlling sort of whatever that emotion is. And then all of a sudden, if you're sort of just being present, the experience happens, and the experience comes in, and then the tide goes out with your emotions. And they come and then they go completely. And then all of a sudden, it's a much more gracious and regenerative environment to be in.
It's beautiful, Omar. So well said. And that's really the energy that we're doing this with, right? Is that grace and that love and that awareness. So let's begin. So let's all choose a quality that we wish to work with today. And, you know, we all have human qualities of judgment is a really great one to work with if you can't think of one. Anxiety, I'll let you choose. So don't be afraid. You can go for the big kahunas. It's all good. So what we're going to do is everybody just get comfy and find a straight spine. And you really can keep your eyes open or closed. And the reason for this is because if you wish to use a pillow and put it in front of you, sometimes just the visual can help. Or if you wish to go in and visualize it, that's fabulous too. So I'm going to really leave it to you, each one of you, to decide what's best for you today. So either eyes open or eyes closed. And see the quality, the energy of the quality that you're working with today. Just see it. And you can just make it up too. It's fine. Just visualize it. The power of the mind is what we're using. And notice anything that arises in the body, any sensations. You may even notice, wow, I am really familiar with this energy. Whatever it is. So notice. And we're going to begin. Thank you and name the quality. I'm grateful to you because you kept me safe, you protected me, whatever it is for you. And if anybody gets stuck, just send a little chat that just says stuck and we'll unpack that part, but I'll keep moving. Thank you. I'm grateful to you because. Really go there. You can keep it simple, but really feel it. And I'm going to add a line for us today. And moving forward, I no longer need you in this form. Today, I end my relationship with you and say the quality. And I send you back to your source. Now see it leave, because energy responds to our commands. And take a deep breath in. Exhale, relax the body. Another deep breath in. Good. And in this space, I ignite. And choose your love-based quality. And breathe that love-based quality in with a deep breath. Ignite it in all of the cells of your body, in the cells of the blood, in the organs and glands. Ignite it in the brain, and ignite it in the energy fields around the physical body. We are activating, we are energizing, and we are anchoring this new quality. Take another deep breath in. And exhale. And one more in. And exhale. And as the bonus round, I am going to invite each one to visualize moving through your day from this energy. Feel yourself moving through your day in this new ignited quality that you have declared for yourself. Notice an interaction in your mind's eye. Notice your thoughts. Notice how your body moves, how you walk. Notice how you speak. Continue to breathe. Lots of energy is moving. Beautiful. And gently begin to come back. And a homework assignment, if you choose to accept, is that you can take 2 minutes, 3 minutes in the morning and go back to igniting this quality in you and visualizing your day from this energy. And what this will do is begin to nourish the new patterning in the mind and the brain. Wherever we focus, what's the phrase? Energy flows where attention goes.
Wherever our intention goes, our energy goes. Whatever
Yeah.
intention goes, our energy goes.
I always say it in a million different ways, but that's a nice way to say it. So let's create new places for our energy and attention to go, right? Omar, how was that for you?
Oh my goodness.
Really?
Oh yeah. This I think I used one that you'd sort of teed up for us already, which was judgment.
Mm-hmm.
And I had no idea where I was going to go with it. And so just, you're like, all right, give thanks for judgment. And I was like, okay, I'm going to thank you, judgment, for teaching me right and wrong.
Mm.
And it was just this beautiful way to turn what can often be sort of a very negative, like judging something, but into, there is a sense of right and wrong. And to just be appreciative for that part of judgment.
Mm-hmm.
And then the ignite part, again, not knowing where this was going to go,
Mm-hmm.
surrender is what came.
Mm. Wow.
And so to go from judgment to surrender, and then, because then it's just this acceptance. So it's not about my opinion of right or wrong and how I'm trying to force one thing or another, but what does it mean to just be generous and surrendering and accepting what is in any given moment. And what was beautiful is my brain had already activated the idea of where I would use it. So even before you're like, okay, I'm going to have one more sort of bonus round of like, imagine your day. I immediately went to the moment where we're trying to put the kids to bed every night. And that's like the moment where there's just always tension. And so this moment of just surrender and letting that moment go. And there was just all of a sudden a sense of ease and grace.
Mm,
Beautiful.
amazing. Thank you.
You.
Thank you.
I'd love to hear how it was for others as we sort of wrap this session.
And you can unmute yourself and share if you wish.
I'll share. It's easier for me oh, this is Trisha. Sorry. Just jumping in. Jumping in with both feet. I let go of panic.
It's a great one to work with. That is a fabulous one to work with. Nice work. And what did you ignite?
Compassion for self.
Excellent. Absolutely excellent.
And compassion for self and others. You know,
Beautiful.
working on more compassion and accepting that panic no longer, you know, the need to the fight or flight feeling that I grew within me when I was a child is no longer serving me. So letting that go.
Fabulous. Really, really, really beautiful. You see, these are pinnacle moments. Here we are. It's a 45-minute call on a Thursday, guys. You know, and this level of awareness, we're in such a different time right now on this planet. Transformation is instant, right? It just has to do with shifting our awareness, shining the spotlight on what we're looking at, and just saying, I'm going to do this differently.
True. Yes,
Boom.
true.
So now, Trisha, moving forward, you get to be compassionate with yourself if anything arises, but also just to commit to compassion. Like, what does that even look like? Now we get to be inside the question, what does this look like in my life? Living a life where I'm compassionate for myself and others. Living a life where I feel, as Laura, you said, love and grace, right? In my life, this igniting love and grace. Like, let's get curious about that. Nobody here is supposed to know all of the magic that's supposed to unfold. This is the fun part.
Correct.
Is discovering what life looks like as we continue to commit to these love-based qualities within.
Thank you.
Thank you
Oakley.
so much, Laura. Thank you. Yeah.
Well,
Thank you, Trisha.
Thank you, Oakley. Thank you, Omar.
Thank you. I think that's, to me, one of the powerful things about these practices is just how quick they can be, and that they're here for us. You know, and that's like for me with the practice of gratitude, just the simple pause of noticing something good. And for me, then developing the noticing mind. And that the noticing mind has become my host. It allows me to see and accept and welcome. And then the ignition that's created, to me, is what we're doing right here. Co-creating this space is what is being ignited. The sense that we are creating our new normal. That is, I think, part of what is going to be reborn out of this moment, or what are the practices that we're going to take moving forward. And that's, to me, is what has been beautiful of having you on, Oakley, and what has happened in the last 3 weeks. And, you know, when you first joined us 3 months ago, as we, you know, sign off, I just want to share with folks that we love hearing from you. Continue to reach out to us. Oakley and I are going to take a much needed set of vacations. She's on the East Coast, I'm here on the West Coast. So we're going to be off for the month of August. So we really encourage you to download and use the gthx app. I will still be there in the public journal. And that's still another great way to connect. Oakley's now, I think, has 5 or 6 of her practices in the app. And then we will have all of these on our YouTube channel. And so that's the cool thing is that, and we'll also edit some of these so that if you want to just jump straight to the practice, you can jump straight to the practice. And just remember that you're not alone in this. I think that's part of it is, you know, my thing was judgment. We judge like, oh, I'm the only one feeling this. And then you judge your judgment. And you're like, oh my God, now I'm judging my judgment, you know, and it becomes like the onion layer is like adding back on, right? And it's like, no, it doesn't have to be that way, right? Like the onion actually can just dissolve, you know? And so I think that's, this is beautiful. And so I can't tell you how much I appreciate each of you joining us, Oakley, for being a co-conspirator in the creation of this. And Brian, our audio engineer, who makes sure that, you know, all of this moves forward. Any last sort of minute thoughts, sharings, Oakley, as we sign off for a little bit?
You're not alone. I love that. You're just not. I think I can't really remember the last time I've taken sort of a real vacation. So that's kind of fun. Omar and I are excited to actually recharge our batteries in a new way. And then to come back with some really, really cool new stuff for all of you. And so, I mean, I cannot stress enough how grateful we are to be with each one of you. You guys making the time to be together is what makes this possible. And it's just, you know, you could be doing other things. So thank you so much for making time to be together, because it is about togetherness. It is about what gets created by being together. It's so powerful. And yeah, we're coming back hot in September, and we're going to screenshot all of you so that when we get back, we're going to match and see who's showing up and who's not showing up.
We'll just be noticing.
We'll just be noticing. No big deal.
But, I mean, you know, I think part of it is, look, the easier way for us would be to just do a podcast or, you know, to keep things going on in the app. But we really want to create this live gthx Zoomcast experience where it's participatory. And so we know that this is more work for everybody, but this is good work. And it can be fun work, and we know it's certainly powerful work. So we want to hear from you. So please, I'm going to put my email in the chat right now. If there are things that would make this better, time of day, length, themes, topics, format, structure, please let us know. You are only doing us a favor if you tell us what really works for you, because ultimately this is for you. And don't be shy. This is an opportunity to create something new. A Zoomcast probably wouldn't have been created 6 months ago. We would have launched a podcast straight up. And so the fact that we now have this experience, we have seen, and we get emails afterwards of people telling us how they're bringing this work into their lives. It gives us encouragement to keep going. But we want to do this the best we can. And so please let us know how we can continue to improve this experience for you, and what it would take for you to tell someone else, like, hey, I don't even know how to describe this thing, but you have to check it out.
Oakley's in a sound booth in Maine. Omar's in this orange room. But like, I don't know. I just keep wanting to go back.
It works.
It works.
Awesome. Again, thank you everyone for joining us. We appreciate you showing up. It makes a difference for yourself, for us, and for the world. Cheers.
Be in touch, everybody. Have a beautiful August, and we'll see you in the fall.